Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. So today we have on a good friend of mine. I mean, I would even consider him a brother. I've known him for almost 10 years. We've been separated for a while, but we finally got back in the same area and was able to get together and spend some time with him and his family. But I learned recently that he had to go through DAPA. Now, on the podcast, we talk about DAPA a lot, but we never say what it stands for. DAPA stands for Drug and Alcohol Program Advisor. And basically, there's a counselor at every command that you go to and sit down and talk with, and they should be able to get you the help that you need. And that's exactly what my friend did. And I won't go too much in that. You can just listen further into the podcast, and he'll tell you his story. But there's all kind of sailors out there that may have this story. So just sit down and if you think you see a problem, try and address it. But one thing I want to address that I didn't talk about in the podcast as well is that, as resources, you have your command and you can go to your command and there's plenty of programs there. You can talk to chaplain, you can talk to medical, you can talk to DAPA. There's plenty of stuff command wise, but if you start getting online and searching around, there's really not much out there. I dug around and like if you go to NPC, which is Navy Personnel Command, they have a webpage for it, but there's really no resources as far as who to reach out to. So that's definitely something that the Navy needs to work on. If you know of some resources that I just couldn't find, let me know so that way I can start linking them. I can link it in the show notes, and I can put it out there and make people aware of what's going on. So I hope you enjoy the podcast, and I hope that it helps. Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. Today I have an old friend on, and we're going to be talking about DAPA. And he's going to tell you about his experience, and we've got some questions, and we'll try and get the whole experience outlined for you so you can understand if you need help, what you can do to get that help. I'll just go ahead and throw it over to him and let him tell you a little bit about himself, and then we'll go ahead and go into it.
Well, thank you for having me on. So I'm not going to be too anonymous about this because I was pretty out front when it came to my section about my experience and everything. I let them know what I was going through after I came back anyways. So I'm an MA1. I'm currently stationed aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln. I self-referred to DAPA maybe about 7 months ago, last summer, around that time, around March, a little after that, yeah. I self-referred to DAPA around then, and I spent about 35 days in rehab. So,
all right. Well, thank you for coming on. I hope this helps some people out there. So, I'm going to be honest with you. I never saw the signs. I never thought that you had a problem, and maybe there's something else that you saw internally that I didn't. But I never really thought. I just thought we were well enough off. We just had some drinks now and then, and we were good. I know you drank a little more than I did, but I didn't know it was an issue. When did you realize that you had? It was for drinking, right?
yes.
So when did you realize that you had a drinking problem?
So nobody really saw the signs because I kept them hidden pretty well. I kept them hidden really well, actually. So when you and I really hung out at that, I wasn't really drinking too heavily then. It wasn't until the next command in Fallon is when I started drinking really, really heavily. Now in Sicily I drank some, but in Fallon I drank a lot. Now my wife got ill, or she started getting the symptoms and everything of her being really ill. And I don't want to use that as a crutch, but that triggered a lot of stuff for me about the stress. And I was a stress drinker. And so I would drink a lot. Like, she was in and out of the hospital. She was in and out of the ER. I'm not going to get too in depth with that stuff, but excuse me. But she was sick. So I started drinking a lot. And even when I started drinking a lot there, she didn't realize how much I was drinking because I would hide it from her. And I was a functioning alcoholic. Like I could drink and you wouldn't already know I was drunk unless I wanted you to know I was drunk. Like I was able to hide it. Let's see. So perfect example. When I did my Sailor of the Year board, I was hungover.
Wow.
But nobody would ever know. When I went to accept my Sailor of the Year, after I won Sailor of the Year, they had a banquet for all the people who won Sailor of the Year because it wasn't just that overall command, but it was like the tenant commands and stuff too. That I was drunk when I went to accept the award. When I did my speech and everything up there, I was intoxicated. So I hit it. I hit it very well. So, there was one night that I was had an argument with my wife, and we had been arguing a lot more than lately. And we were laying in bed after the argument, and it calmed down. And I told her like, "You can't let me off by myself anymore." And she asked why. What did that mean? And I told her that I had a drinking problem. And she didn't quite understand it. And I told her, I was like, I can't be off by myself right now. Then I need help. And this was in Fallon. And after that, we tried to, tame it on ourselves. I quit drinking for a while. It didn't catch on quite a bit at first. Like it took two or three times before I actually had some longevity. And then we went to our next command in Norfolk, and let's see, the ship went on underway, and I stayed behind for school. And Katie found a bottle in the house, and she said, "It's either the alcohol or I'm leaving you, and I'm taking the girls." And I have 2 children, and she said, "If you don't stop drinking, I'm taking both of them, and we're moving back to Texas." And so I asked her to hold off on that and let me go to DAPA because I knew about DAPA. I didn't know about everything they could offer, but I knew about a little bit about DAPA, and that they could help a little bit. So she agreed with that. And the very same day the ship pulled back in, I had to go check back in anyways with the command. But after I checked back in the command, I finally worked up enough courage, and it took me a few minutes. I worked up enough courage to go knock on the door at DAPA, which is 10 feet away from where security works at. Or so I felt a little exposed there. Knocked on the door, walked in. Kind of knew the first class I worked there a little bit in passing, said hey to each other. Told them, and there was a chief that was in there too. And I told them I needed to self-refer. And then the process went from there.
So the fight triggered you into realizing you had a problem, and then the step that actually made you want to seek help was it got to the point where your wife said that she was ready to leave.
It wasn't so much the fight triggered me to realize I had a problem. I figured I had a problem before then, when I couldn't go more than 24 hours without a drink after it got bad.
No.
It was constantly, every day I was going to the next and buying a bottle. And I wasn't drinking like weak stuff either. I was drinking, like, there it is max. At the very peak of it, I was drinking a bottle of Jack Daniels a day. A bottle of 101 Wild Turkey every day. So it got bad.
Wow.
So I knew I had a problem before I even told my wife that I had a problem.
Yeah.
So, but that fight helped me come out to Katie, my wife, that I had a problem.
So, and this is something that I just want to point out for the listener is, because in Fallon you got mapped, he got meritoriously advanced to first class, and then not only that, but he won Sailor of the Year. And, so anybody can have this problem. And, luckily, inmate 1 here has got a good head on his shoulders, and it took him some time, but he went and he got help. And there's nothing wrong with getting help. So when you did get help, what can you kind of tell me like what that process was, how they treated you, and what the counselors and stuff wanted to know?
So when I first went to the DAPA, knocked on their door, and said, "Hey, I'm a self-referral. I think I may have a drinking problem." They set me down, and they were very supportive about the entire thing. They were congratulating me for coming in on my own accord, and yada yada yada. And some of the big things they wanted to know was right off the bat was, is this really a self-referral, or is there some legal stuff going on and you just want to get ahead of the ball? And I can kind of understand that, like just to cover their asses a little bit. I get that. So I was like, no, there's no legal things proceeding. Like, this is a straight up self-referral. And they're like, hey, if there is legal things proceeding, then and you're telling me all this stuff now, then there's going to be ramifications for that. I'm like, no, there's nothing prior to this. This is it. So like, okay. So then they started doing their paperwork, saying, okay, so how much do you drink? What triggers the drinking? What makes you think you have a problem? Do you black out? What do you drink? Etc. Etc. Just about my drinking history and stuff. Was there any drugs involved? Things like that. So once I got through with that process, they also asked me, they're like, hey, I know this is a self-referral and it's supposed to be anonymous, but somebody in your chain of command has to know about what's going on. And it has to be an E7 or above. So I was brand new there. We had two E7s, an E9, we had a LTJG, and an 04. 04 was a Seco and on down. So the only person that I felt comfortable with enough after being a month there was my Master Chief, letting him know. And my whole train of thinking was like, okay, so if I tell one of my chiefs, then they would have to tell my Master Chief, and my Master Chief would have to tell my Seco about what was going on. So I was like, I'm just going to cut out the middleman, and I'm going to tell the Master Chief's going to know. That way he can just go straight to Seco and Seco, and they can know. And that's less people knowing. So that's why I picked the Master Chief. So, of course, they ended up telling Master Chief what happened. And a few days later, I got this random call down to Master Chief's office, and I already knew what it was about. He pulled me in his office, and he asked me how I was adjusting and what was going on. And I was just straight up with him. I was like, I know why you pulled me down here. Like, I'm not dumb. I know why you pulled me down here. And it's because I self-referred to DAPA. And he's like, yeah, I did. And he wanted to make sure I was okay. And how everything was going. And what the process was like for me. So, after Master Chief pulled me down there, as far as I knew, he kept it with just a need-to-know basis, as far as him and Seco knew. Seco was very unattached about it. She was more like, just go talk to your Master Chief and your E7s about it.
That's weird. So she said that to you? She was like, whatever, not my problem. Go talk to the chiefs.
Yeah, more or less.
Wow.
Yeah. Wasn't too concerned about her because I got another Seco coming along right after that. And he's been nothing but supportive to me. But so the Master Chief knew about it. We all got the ball rolling and everything, and then I can't remember why they called me down to their office, but the two chiefs called me down in their office, and they were talking to me about something, and then out of the blue, one of the chiefs was like, hey, curiosity's killing me. I didn't know what's going on with you and this alcohol stuff. And he's like, I never would have guessed, just like anybody else, I never would have guessed that you had a problem. You came into this command like hot or shit hot and like really assertive yourself as far as first classes go. And I told him straight up, I said, you seem like a good chief, both of you do, but this is personal, and I'd rather just keep it to myself. I don't really know anybody here. And they respected that. And they both said, if you ever need anything, then I'm here for you. So that was that. And then I went off to rehab.
So how long after you self-referred, in between the time that you did when you self-referred, did they tell you we're going to send you to rehab?
So they didn't tell me right off because there's a 3-part process when it comes to that stuff. You go to DAPA, and that's your number 1 referral. All right, and then you go see the ship psych or the psych on base or whatever, and then you go see your SARC or your SARP. Yeah. So your SARP is your substance abuse rehabilitation counselor or whatever. So you go see all 3 of those. And so after you see your ship psych and after you see your SARC, they make a recommendation. After they ask you almost the same exact questions as the DAPA does, as far as how much you drink, the type that you drink, do you black out, what your if you feel like you have any cravings afterwards, what your symptoms are, if you have any cravings afterwards. And they make all these recommendations, or they take all that information, they make a recommendation to the ship psych, and the ship psych has the overall say so. So after I saw the SARC, and after I saw the ship psych, and after I saw the DAPA, they recommend a level 3 treatment for me, which is the top treatment. You have a level 1, 2, and 3. Level 1, it's like a week long of like alcohol impact course, which they help you manage your drinking. Like, this is how you drink responsibly. Level 2 is you go to rehab during the day, but you get to go home at night.
Okay.
And it's Monday through Saturday. This is just for the East Coast. I don't know what it's like on any other coast or any other place. I can only speak for Portsmouth.
Yeah.
Level 3 over here was I spent 35 days in-house patient at Portsmouth. I was there for 35 days straight. So every single day we would they had our schedule outlined for us almost like boot camp. But I was there, I was a E6 when I was there. There was chiefs there, there was a senior chief there, there were officers there, hell, there were SEALs there.
Yeah.
So
I want to get into that actually being there. But before we do that, how long between the time that you referred and from the time you referred to the time that you actually went, how long did it take for you to get, I'm assuming, TAD orders to the DAPA treatment facility?
So they got me there as fast as they possibly could. I feel like they did anyways. They had to wait because space is limited over there. So they had to wait for beds to open up. So as soon as the bed opened up, basically they got me over there. There was major inspections coming up on the ship. They bypassed that for me. Like, you don't need to be part of this. You need to be part of the SARP stuff, the rehab program. So I got to skip some pretty major inspections on the ship to go to the rehab stuff. So I would say it's maybe about a month for when I said referred to when I actually the first day I stepped into rehab.
That's not bad. So let's go into day-to-day treatment at this facility. So you show up, I'm assuming, you got your own room. They probably, I don't know. You just want to take that and...
Yeah, sure. So I show up, and I think it was a Monday or something. It was like an in-doc day for the new people, and it's a week-by-week course. So we're all week 1 patients. There was maybe me and maybe, 20 other people that showed up that first day. They gave us some paperwork. They breathalyzed us and everything just to make sure we were sober and that we could sign some, I think it was a consent for treatment. And there was like 2 people that were drunk when they showed up there. Yeah. One was a corpsman. But there was a couple people that were drunk, so they had to wait for them to sober up. Now, there was no punitive measures for those people that were drunk when they showed up. They just had to wait for them to sober up before they could sign that paperwork.
Let me stop right there for a second. And so, just to clarify, for people that they do need help, they do need to seek help. If you go and you self-refer, there is no punitive measures that will be taken against you.
So it's been about 7 or 8 months since I've self-referred, and there's been no punitive measures taken against me.
Yeah, exactly. So
absolutely none.
Right. This program is here for you. Yep. It's so that, because I know even I just came from Bahrain when I was there. we had a sailor who told his first class, I have a drinking problem. And he was like, oh, okay, whatever. And they didn't do anything about it. And then I think it was a couple weeks later, something happened. He was at work and he was drunk. So he showed up and he's got an arm up, and they breathalyzed him and he was clearly drunk. And they tried to hem him up, get him in trouble. But he was like, look, I told my first class I had a drinking problem and I needed help, and he didn't do anything about it. And so he didn't even get in trouble for that. So, self-referring, obviously before that, if you do tell somebody, you need to go up above and beyond that. If they're like, okay, whatever, and nothing comes of it, you need to step up. I know that reaching out that first time, it will be hard. Like MA1 was just saying, it's kind of awkward. It was difficult to make that first knock, but once you do it, it'll set you on the right path.
Yep.
So I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt, but
no, I highly recommend just going straight to your DAPA. If you
Yeah.
feel like you have a drinking problem, just going straight to your DAPA and knocking on the door and letting them know that's why they're there.
yeah.
So to get back to the rehab stuff though. So that first day was highly awkward. I had a suitcase that I brought with me, but they searched the entire suitcase. There was like, you can have this, you can't have that. I couldn't even have cologne. Yeah. So like, no, you can't have that. So, I mean, it is what it is. It was their rules. So, I mean, I didn't get mad. I just, I had to follow the rules. It was whatever.
Yeah.
But, so they did all that stuff. They checked us in. They assigned me rooms, and I was definitely not a room by myself. It was me and then probably about 5 other people.
Wow.
Yeah, but it was a decent sized room.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, wasn't anything to write home about, but it was doable. And we were all level 3 patients, so we all stayed there the night. In that room, I had. Let's see. I was actually the junior person as far as rank was concerned in that room. I was the youngest person as far as age was concerned. I had a chief in there, an E7 in there. I had an officer in there, a couple officers actually in there. So yeah, I was a junior person in there. So and when I told my junior guys about this, about how it could affect anybody, like in my room, I had special warfare people in my room. And like the special warfare guy that was in there, him and I became probably closer than I became with anybody else in there. And so after that first day, they checked us in. We got our room situated. They gave us our rules. We had to sign a bunch of paperwork. Say we'll do this, we won't do that, yada yada yada. These are our rules. These are our schedules. And then we went to our very first AA or NA meeting that night. Like, they didn't stop. Like, it was every single day. You either went to an AA meeting, Alcoholics Anonymous, or Narcotics Anonymous meeting every single day. And Wednesdays and Thursdays was in-house. So we had our AA meetings there at the building. But every day, other than those, we went out in town.
Oh, okay.
So when we weren't at AA meetings, though, like, our schedule was pretty strict. We would wake up at a certain time. Or we had a muster at a certain time in the morning. I think it was 8 o'clock. But I would always wake up early because I want to go eat breakfast, of course. Wake up early, go muster, and then we'd have class for us throughout the day. How much you drink per day, and they would have like activities around that, team building activities around that, and they would have group where I would get with a counselor, and everybody in my group, which was everybody was in my room, my little birthing area, and all the people in my birthing area wasn't necessarily the same week as I was. They were like a week ahead, or 2 weeks ahead, or 3 weeks ahead, or 4 weeks ahead. And the counselor, we would go around talking about certain things throughout the day, and the counselor would always pick a topic, or he would throw a ball around. The ball would have certain topics on it, or he would have some kind of exercise for us to do. And group, honestly, was probably where it got the deepest, because that's when everybody's like horrible stories would come out. about them growing up and things that they got to experience. And I heard quite a bit of shit during that stuff. Just from, like, there was one guy who told me, or told us that when he was growing up that his babysitter made him stand in the corner because he was in trouble, which is fine.
Yeah.
But the babysitter also made him stand in the corner long enough for the kid had to use the bathroom and wouldn't let him out until he pissed himself.
Oh.
And then the babysitter laughed about it. So you got to hear stories like that, and there's a lot worse stories.
Oh, I believe it.
Than that. But the group is where it got the deepest, for sure. So that was just a little tidbit about that, and then that was Monday, and then later in the afternoon they would give us 2 hours to PT, so we can decompress.
Yeah.
Throughout the day, about all the emotional crap we had to deal with in the morning, and then after PT we would muster again, and then we'd go to our AA meetings or NA meetings, and after that we would muster a night and then go to bed.
So, I mean, your schedule is pretty rigid there. Did you, like, you weren't allowed to have cell phones or any kind of contact with the outside world?
So, with cell phones concerned, we couldn't have cell phones until on Sundays. We could have cell phones between, I think, if I remember correctly, it was like 2 hours during the day. I can't remember the exact time, but we were allowed to have cell phones, and we had asked our counselor. A lot of our stuff came through our counselor, whether or not, and that was our main person during group, that counselor, which mine was Greg, Group 8. So if he's hearing this, shout out to him. So all the counselors were great, but we could have our cell phones during then. As far as like getting on the computer and stuff, they had computers set up. I wasn't like in prison by any means. Like, I thought at first, that very first day I got on the computer, Facebook wouldn't work, and I was like, crap, I can't communicate with my family at all. I can't talk to my wife. I can't talk to my kids. I can't talk to my parents. And then it just turns out it was just that computer was messed up.
Oh, okay.
So I was able to get on another computer. I was able to communicate with the outside world. I was able to get on the phone. As long as we didn't have anything going on and it was our liberty time, I was able to use this stuff and communicate with my family.
That's good. That was my main thing, is making sure you can still have contact, especially people that have family. So, and you just talked about your liberty time. Like, what was there to do for your liberty time? Did y'all have I'm sorry, but in my head, I'm imagining like in the movies that you see a psych ward, and they have where the patients are all out, and they have like checkers and stuff like that. I'm kind of imagining that. But I mean, you said it's not like prison, so you weren't locked in this space. Like, you were able to move around, and
yeah. So we were locked in this space, and they actually did have a psych ward there, the 5th floor.
Oh,
so
yeah, of course.
And a lot of the patients from the 5th floor came to the rehab program to have somebody in my group that was from the 5th floor. That wasn't there for alcohol at all, really. Now, what he did when he was drunk, but I don't think pretty much everybody agreed that it wasn't alcohol related. It was just him being depressed.
Yeah.
But we, they had board games and stuff. We weren't really allowed to leave base.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons.
Yeah. Because
we needed to be in controlled environment for why we were there.
Yeah.
So for the first week, we weren't allowed to leave the building.
Okay.
Except for going from chow and back and to AA meetings or NA meetings and back. And after the second week, we were allowed to venture out more during our liberty times, like Sundays, when we actually got to go out a little bit more. My family thank God my family came to visit me every single Sunday, gave me something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Every single Sunday. They could come Saturday, but we agreed every single Sunday. Once a week, they got us on a schedule, gave me something to look forward to. They were able to come for about, I don't know, maybe 3 hours. They got to come out there. They got to eat. We ate dinner together. They had a little beach over there. So my kids would come out, the bathing suits, and they would go play in the water a little bit. And me and my wife would just sit on the beach and watch them. So that was nice. and they had a little Liberty Center on base. They had a big hospital over there, which was almost like a mall.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good sized hospital.
You're talking about the Portsmouth Mall?
Portsmouth Hospital.
Or yeah, I
Not
mean the
mall,
hospital.
Yeah. Not the mall. The hospital.
Yeah, that thing's ginormous. Well, I mean that's good to see, and that's what I was wanting to get at is you're not completely confined. It's kind of like you're on restriction almost. Mm-hmm. So I mean, at least you got to get out and get around. That's good. So anything else about the treatment facility that?
I mean, it was a lot different than what I expected. I expected to be talking about alcohol every single day at the facility, and we hardly ever talked about alcohol.
Really?
We hardly ever talked about it. It wasn't like when I talked at the AA meetings. Of course, we talked about alcohol.
Yeah.
But at the group meetings, everything we talked about the underlying issues about why we got these problems more than anything, which helped out quite a bit. I mean, everybody there was. I mean, it felt like they were there for the right reasons. The people that were helping us, they weren't there for a paycheck. So
yeah, I mean, now there is that chance that if you get in an ARI or an alcohol related incident, you're out in town drinking, whatever, you punch somebody, that gets back to your command. You can get in trouble, and they can refer you to DAPA, and that can trigger a whole another course of things. But basically, what I'm getting at is from that incident, you can be sent to this level 3 if you go through the process. And so some people could be in trouble there, but not necessarily. Hopefully before that you go get help. Not necessarily always the case if you get an ARI, but I digress. All right. So we kind of talked about, you realizing you had a problem, what you did about it, you getting help, you being there, what that was like. So let's talk about life after that when you're done. How long did you say you were there? 3 weeks?
35 days.
Oh, I'm sorry, 35 days. Once you finish that, boom, you're straight back to ship life. Did you feel like you were in a good place mentally and you were able to resist, or was it still a little hard?
So 35 days, straight back to ship life. I took a little leave after those 35 days because we were about to go on like a 5-week long underway.
Yeah.
So I wanted a little time with the family. So I took that leave. Did that, then came back. During those 5 weeks, obviously I'm in a controlled environment. I can't really get alcohol if I want. Yeah. So those 5 weeks were extremely easy to resist alcohol because there was none around. When I got back, though, I mean, that was a different story. I mean, I struggled. Struggled every single day. And any alcoholic will tell you that it's a day at a time mentality that I can't sit here and promise myself I'll never drink again, but I can sit here and promise myself that I won't drink for the next 24 hours. And that makes it a lot less daunting for me than just thinking about it 24 hours at a time instead of 30 years at a time.
Yeah. So
it is a struggle. And there's always going to be a struggle for me and for my family.
It is so. When you go to get-togethers and things like that, do you? Obviously, there's going to be alcohol sometimes at these events. When it's there, is it really hard for you to go to those events? Like, if you go, would you prefer? I mean, obviously, I know you're going to say no. If people want to drink, let them drink, right? But if you had the choice of there being no alcohol there, would you rather that be the case so you didn't have to deal with that temptation?
I don't want any special treatment.
Yeah.
Like that at all. I've had friends. So when I was in rehab, I got a day pass, right, to go to a friend's wedding. And the friend was like, we won't have any alcohol at the reception. I'm like, I don't want that. This is y'all's wedding. I don't want y'all to go the extra mile for me just because I have a problem. I want y'all to do whatever you want to do for the reception. I'll deal with it. And that goes for anything. Like, if you were to have a get-together and you wanted alcohol there and you're like, no crap, MA1's coming. I'm not going to have any alcohol there because he's coming. No, fuck that. If you want alcohol there, have alcohol there. Because there's always going to be alcohol at whatever place I go to. I can go to Chili's. They have a bar there.
That's so funny you said Chili's. That's what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
like in any place like that. Like there's always going to be alcohol.
Yeah.
I go to 7-Eleven and there's alcohol. Like sugarcoating it or trying to safeguard me from it, it's not going to do me any good. It's not going to do me any good. Now, with that being said, I don't want people coming up around me and offering me a drink.
Yeah.
You know, and even okay, so I'm open and I'm honest about it, about my struggles and everything. I put it on Facebook before I went. I told certain people before I posted on Facebook that I told my sections about it, like what I was going through, but at the same time, not everybody knows about it, and I don't want everybody to know about it.
Yeah.
So, I do know that people probably come up and offer me a drink, and all they need to know is that I don't drink. And if they keep bugging me about it after that, then we're gonna have problems.
Okay, I mean that makes sense. The takeaway I would think would be from that is if you know somebody that has a drinking problem and they've been to treatment or they've got help, just kind of make sure people aren't bugging the shit out of them.
Basically, yeah, just respect them. Yeah.
Okay, so after leave, you go back to work. We talked about this a little bit before the podcast. How did that affect your career, getting this treatment, going through and helping? Because that's probably that's the biggest question, and I'm sure it was for you. The biggest question is, well, I mean, maybe not in your case because, but in a lot of people's minds is, how is this going to affect my career? How is this going to affect my job?
Yeah.
How in turn, once you did finish, how did that hurt you or help you?
So, again, like nothing came about this punitively speaking. It means no charges were brought upon me. I didn't get in trouble. Like, I didn't go to Captain's Mass. I didn't go to DRB. I didn't go to XOI. I still kept the same rank. No restriction. Nothing like that happened. And I cannot stress that enough. Like, nothing punitively happened that came about this. However, on the flip side, so before I went in, I was an LPO of a section. I had about 35 people underneath me. And I self-referred, and I asked before I even left for rehab, I asked my chain of command if I was still going to have this job when I came back. And they said yes. They said that they're going to put another first class in my section just to fill in that position so they can have that leadership role. Another first class there for a while. I was gone for those 35 days. And I said, cool, I understand it. You want an 86 there just to oversee everything. So when I come back, and they didn't tell me anything during rehab as far as this is concerned. When I come back, hell, the chain of command nobody ever came and saw me during rehab. Like not my LPO, not any of the chiefs, not any of the officers. Nobody actually came and saw me. I had to email. I was emailing my LPO about taking those 6 days of leave after rehab and the underway, and he said email the chief, and I was emailing the chief and he wasn't responding. The LPO said that the chief just got mad because I wanted to take leave because I took leave prior to the rehab stuff, and it took me actually emailing my master chief's personal email for it to get the ball underway. And the master chief was like, I'll tell chief such and such to put in leave for you. So, that all happened. I come back to work after the leave, and the other first class is a section, and she's talking about how this is her section and stuff like that, and she's not just coming out forth and saying it. She's not being a dick about it at all, but she's dropping little things here and there that makes me think that, hey, this isn't my section anymore. So I pulled my chief aside after a GQ, and I asked him straight up, I was like, is this my section anymore, or is this hers? He said, no, this is hers. And I asked him why. It's like, what did I do? He's like, oh, nothing. I was like, well, then why did I get fired? He's like, oh, you didn't get fired. I was like, well, I don't have the job anymore. So, and I had the job before I left, and now I don't. Like, did I do something? Did I mess up somehow along the way? He's like, oh, no, you just don't have the job anymore. And he was really vague about it. And he just alluded to it, like, he didn't want to give me, like, a straight-up answer why I didn't have the job. And it took me digging around a little bit. I was talking to my OPO about it, about why I didn't have the job, and I was frustrated. I felt like I got fired while I was in rehab. And he's like, oh, no, the chain of command was just looking out for you. They just wanted you to be able to focus on yourself after rehab. And I can kind of understand that. Like, being able to focus on yourself after rehab, after those, so you can get yourself back on track. But I was told before I went to rehab that I would have this job when I came back. And then when I came back, I didn't have that job anymore. And it was a little frustrating. It still is frustrating. So.
Well, did you ever make it back into that position?
Not yet, no.
Still not yet. And it's been how long? 7 months, you said?
Let's see. I want to say, because I spent most of summer in rehab. So I would say since last July.
Wow.
I think I spent July 4th in rehab.
I mean, you know,
yeah.
It's one thing, and I'm going to kind of steal what you were saying before. You know, it's one thing if they would have come out and just told you, look, this is not your section right now because, you know, we think you need some time for yourself. And, you know, like you said, that you could have respected that a lot more than just been like, oh, no, you know, just this is our section. And, like, just beating around the bush and not actually coming out and tell you. And, you know, I can understand kind of them saying we want to give you some time, whatever. But then, you know, after that, leaving you in that assistant position is kind of like, okay, look, I'm here, I'm performing, I'm doing my job. Let me have my section back. Let me lead my people, you know. And if anything, I feel like that would be a good thing to put you back because they're showing those junior sailors like, hey, look, obviously everybody kind of knows because it's no secret. Everybody knows everything, especially when you're an MA. We're very, you know, when we're at a command, we're kind of small and close knit, you know, and for you to come back from treatment and then to put you back in that position is saying, look, this guy came out, he got help, he's better. He's back running things. This is what we want to see from our sailors. You know, you can rebound and be a strong sailor. And for them to do that, I mean, it's bullshit. Is what I mean. Granted, I'm MA too. I don't know. Maybe they've got some other fucking knowledge that I don't have. But in my opinion, it's just complete crap.
No, I mean I agree. I mean, the grand scheme of things, I'm just MA1, so maybe the chiefs and the officers had something else in mind too. When it came to that, but
so obviously that hurt, losing your section, losing your people. I mean, that can't have felt good. But outside of that, has it affected your career in any other way? Have they intentionally restricted you from doing certain jobs or not giving you promotions or not giving you, anything that they normally would? Has any of that happened that you've noticed?
As far as I can notice, no, they haven't. Like anything that I've gotten or I haven't gotten, other than the whole OPO thing, is what I've deserved or haven't deserved. So, I mean, that's a positive right there. Like they haven't, as far as what I can tell, they haven't held it against me other than the OPO stuff. So, I mean, there's that.
That's good. So now you're getting ready to go underway, and you're going to be hitting a bunch of ports. Are you? How much of a struggle do you think that's going to be? Because you know how sailors are. We get into a port, and the first thing, especially the junior guys. I mean, granted, you're not really junior anymore, but some of the senior guys too. When they hit that port, they're like, "Hey, I want to go to the bar. I want to go to the bar. I want to go to the bar." How do you think that's going to affect you during this deployment?
So, I read over the Liberty policy because it came out not too long ago, a couple days ago, as far as when we pull into ports and everything, about what it has to be. And there has to be at least one person in your group, at least a minimum of 2 people in your group. At maximum, they recommend 5, but it's not set in stone for the 5 people, but at least one person has to be sober and one person has to be the responsible person, which is perfect for me. Now, they also have different liberty risk classes, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta. And I'm almost 95% certain I'll be Delta, and Delta means dry. That means I can't drink, which is fine. But if they catch me drinking, and this is just something for them to hold over my head, and I get it, and it's just more help for me, more motivation for me not to drink, is that if I get caught drinking or get caught in an establishment where their sole means of money is alcohol, like i.e. a bar or a club, then I can get in trouble. Punitive measures, because I'm not supposed to be there. So, I mean, that's something they hold over me. My entire section, or the people who were in my section, we've had more people and some things changed since then, but all the inmates in my section, at least, when it first happened, they know about my problems. So if I go out with somebody, because I'll have the Liberty buddy, they'll understand I will be straight up. If they don't even know my problems, I'll be straight up with them and tell them I can't do this. Or I will find somebody, because they have weekly AA meetings on the ship, and I'll just find somebody from one of those weekly AA meetings that's a enlisted members, because there are officers that go, and E7 aboves that go there. I'll just find an E6 or below to go with me and be my Liberty buddy.
That's good. Yeah. That's good that they have that on ship. I didn't even realize it was on there.
Yep. So if you see Friends of Bill's, that's what it is.
Okay. So something that just came to mind when you were talking, when you do this treatment, you go through this process. When you get done, you're no longer allowed to drink, or is there like, okay, you've done the treatment, you're good, you can drink responsibly now, or they just tell you flat out like you're not supposed to drink anymore?
All right. So for a year straight, you're not supposed to drink.
Okay.
For a year straight, you're not supposed to drink when you're going through this process. Now, after that year, if you get any kind of trouble, any kind of ARI, they can hold that against you. Even more so than if, say, somebody who has been through treatment, getting that ARI. Right. They can hold that against you more. So.
But after a year, that you can drink. It's just, you have to stay out of trouble.
Yep.
Okay. What else? When you talked to the DAPA, did he tell you like, what kind of information did the DAPA give you? Like, was there, like different types of programs, or was it just like sit down, we talk, and then this is the next step?
So basically, with the DAPA, he's your foot in the door when it comes to everything else. That's what I got out of it. Like, he is your center point for everything. You come in there, you talk to him, you self-refer to him. This is what I have going on, and he's like, here's your process, here's the steps outlined for this. First step's me. We'll set your appointment with SARP, and then we'll set your appointment with the ship psych, and we'll go from there.
Okay. I mean, I feel like we've pretty well covered it. Is there anything that you think we left out that you want to hit?
No, not really. Other than like if you do have any type of problems, or if you think one of your sailors have a type of problem with alcohol or drugs, because I just had somebody, not one of my sailors, but somebody at work, self-referred for drugs a couple days ago. I don't know all the details about his case, but if you think yourself or one of your sailors has a problem, I mean, there are avenues out there for them to get help. So please, like, refer yourself or refer one of your sailors.
Yeah. So one question about that before we close, and you may not know the answer. He self-referred for drugs. Does he get any punitive?
So when it comes to drugs, the Navy has a zero tolerance policy on drugs. So him just self-referring for drugs, period, is a UCMJ article violation. Like with me, when it's self-referring to alcohol, like I didn't self-incriminate myself. I wasn't like, hey, I was drinking and driving, or hey, I showed up to work drunk, or anything like that. But him just self-referring for drugs, he kind of put himself in the command and in a hole.
Yeah.
So that rabbit hole, like, I don't know what's going to come out of his situation. I really don't. And if he does go up, I'm sure I'll find out eventually, because he'll be on restriction. I'll be his bailiff for one of his proceedings or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish the kid all the best. He's self-referred. That's That takes a lot of guts,
Yeah.
especially for drugs.
Oh yeah.
More so drugs than alcohol. So
If you do find out about that, let me know so I can let these guys know. One other thing is, I do know that if, say, you're at the club, you're doing whatever. If your drink gets drugged or something happens and you somehow get drugged, as long as you go in and you're like, hey, this is what happened, and they test you, you're good to go. You're going to be covered. Now that can't be like an every week thing. Then they're going to be like, oh, okay, no, I see what you're doing.
yeah. So I actually had a sailor in my section right after I first took over here, that he took some leave because his father passed away, and his father was involved in drugs, and he was in his father's room or something along the lines, going through a bunch of records and pictures of his dad and his family, and he found what he thought was candy, and well, it turned out the candy was drugs.
Oh.
So he after he took it, he went straight to the hospital because he started feeling funny. Now, he had a drug test at the hospital and it came up positive. And what this kid did was he did the right thing. He immediately called me. He was like, hey, MA1, this is what's going on. I have all this stuff happening. The drug test came up positive, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, just take care of yourself for now. When you come back from leave, we'll handle it on our end. So I told my chain of command right after I got off the phone with him, I was like, hey, this is what's going on with this kid. Now, he went to DAPA right after this when he came back from leave. And, I mean, long story short, he came up clear of all charges. Like, there was no charges even brought up against him. He never even went to DRB. Like, they came to be like, okay, so this was an accidental thing. Like, he didn't purposely use these narcotics.
Yeah,
So.
exactly. And that's my point. So if something does happen like that, don't be scared to, I mean, you need to do it immediately.
Yeah.
But don't be scared to call and be like, hey, this is what happened. I don't know what to do.
Yep. If you hide it or you're trying to hold back information, it just makes yourself look guilty.
Yep.
So.
All right. So before we close, I know you did a little spiel a while ago, but is there anything else that you would want to say to somebody that's out there that might need help or that they think their sailor might need help?
No, just refer yourself to DAPA. Just go knock on the door and take that first step. That first step is definitely the hardest.
Yeah.
So definitely the hardest.
Yeah. So, yeah, for you guys listening, if you see a sailor that you think has a problem, sit down and talk to them, and try and get them help. And hopefully they'll take it. Worst case scenario, they have to be forced into it. And I really hope that doesn't happen for you guys. Try and get ahead of it. So MA1, I really appreciate you coming on. I know this is kind of a hard topic. So I'm glad you came on and talked about it. And I really hope that it helps somebody out there.
I hope so too.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. And for all you guys listening, if this information was good for you, if you enjoyed this episode, if you think it can help, please, share it, leave me a comment, reach out to me, tell me what you thought, and I'll do my best to get this information even further out there. If you want to come on and talk, if you want to talk about this topic or any other topic, please let me know. Thanks, guys. And we'll see you next time.